Okay, it's time to get started. Just a reminder that this is our last Wednesday until January the 14th. We'll take a break with, Cheryl sounds so disappointed. We'll take a little bit of a break so everybody can have their parties and all of their dinners and festivals and all that stuff, and then we'll come back. But of course, we'll see each other a lot over these next few weeks. This coming Sunday is our Christmas cantata, and you know, we have two stars in here today. We do. Jane and Lauren both were on the radio this morning. Did anybody hear them? Oh, you did? Okay. So did you find out if they're archived? Can you go back and listen? Oh, okay. Well, if you want to listen, but anyway, that's at the All Keck Theater, which is Weatherford College, so that'll be fun. And then, of course, every year we have our Christmas Eve services, and they're 5 o'clock, 7 o'clock, and 11 o'clock. And it's funny because when I first got here, 11 o'clock was sparsely attended. It's now become very well attended. There's something special about 11 o'clock. And I was looking for pictures. I couldn't find it. I think it was 2019. We walked out of the sanctuary. We rang the bell at midnight. And then we opened the doors, and it was snowing. It was just like white Christmas. It was awesome. So anyway, those are always fun and wonderful services, candlelight services, and so we'll have that this year. Before we get started, I do want to give you a report on Bo. I'm just going to read you the report. It's good news. The procedure is finished. This was at 3:55. Procedure finished. Doctor was happy with the results and said Bo did well. He's waking up now and will be headed to ICU afterwards. So he'll be living in the ICU for a little while now. Tomorrow, I don't have a time. As far as I remember, I think it's afternoonish when they're going to have the surgery tomorrow. But I say that out loud, though, now, and I remember them saying the surgery is going to be 6 hours. So I'm probably wrong about the afternoonish. I will get word to everybody in the morning on Morning Watch, and I'm sure we'll be sending out some emails. But the first procedure went well today. Tomorrow is the removal. They said 2 hours to get in, 2 hours to remove, and then 2 hours to get out. So just a lot going on there, but we're very prayerful over that. So thank you all for your response to and building care packages. We're good for the moment. We've got a lot of good stuff, and we'll be getting that to them throughout the week. So let me pray for our time, and then we're gonna I think end tonight with Absalom returning back to Jerusalem, and then next semester we'll start off with the revolt. Okay, let's pray though for now. Holy Spirit, we're inviting your presence here for not just for illumination, for our knowledge, but to illuminate our hearts as well. Speak to us. Help us to understand your word, both in our brains and in our hearts. And we give this to you in your holy name. Amen. Okay, we're in 2 Samuel 14. 2 Samuel 14, which is over halfway through the whole thing. Just 10 chapters to go. But we find ourselves in what we've talked about as it's the beginning of the consequences to the reality of David's sin with Bathsheba. So David, of course, looks out over the fence at the greener grass and says, I'd like that. And he invites this woman, Bathsheba, to come into his house, and he lays with her, and she becomes pregnant. And that is in and of itself bad enough. But then to try to fix the issue, he tells her husband to come home so that he would maybe lay with her and then everything would be fixed. You know, that's his idea. And he's an honorable man. He says, no, thank you. I'm going to do like my men are doing, and I'm going to sleep on the ground on the front door of my house. I won't participate in that while my fellow soldiers are in battle. And so David's trying to figure out what to do, and he decides he's going to have Uriah sent to the front lines. And not only sent to the front lines to put him in a perilous place, but then also then to have his general of the army pull back so that Uriah is stuck there by himself and he dies. He's murdered him. And so Nathan the prophet calls him out, brings a word from the Lord, and part of the word from the Lord is your household will have no more peace. Be a warring household. And it starts with Amnon, who rapes his own half-sister. And there's really no retribution, or not retribution, there's no consequences for him. They're disgusted with him, they're frustrated, but there's no accountability. And so Absalom decides, the brother of Tamar, the sister, decides he's going to take justice into his own hands. And he tricks everybody to come out to his place while they're doing a sheep shearing, and his men come and attack Amnon and kills him. And everybody escapes, including Absalom, who goes off into hiding. Now, I found something out this week that it's not like earth-shattering, but it's just an interesting piece of information. If you look at the end of chapter 13, we're told there in verse 38 that Absalom fled and he went to Geshur. He stayed there 3 years, and King David longed to go to Absalom, for he was consoled concerning Amnon's death. Okay, somebody turn into chapter 3, verse 3 for me real quick. Would you read that out loud for me, Lauren? Real loudly.
And his second, Chileab of Abigail, the widow of Nabal of Carmel.
Okay, that's his second kid.
And
No.
the third, Absalom, the son of Maacah, the daughter of Talmai, king of Geshur.
Okay, if you couldn't hear that, and you weren't looking at verse 3, chapter 3, verse 3, it references his son Absalom as the daughter of Talmai, the daughter of the king of Geshur. Or, not her name's not Talmai, that's the name of the king. Son of Maacah, daughter of Talmai, king of Geshur. So what we're finding out, it just makes so much sense. Where are you going to go if you have to run away and you're scared of your own father? You go to your mother's parents' house. Your matriarchal grandparents. That's where he went. I just think that's a helpful piece of information. Gives us a little clue. He's not just going out somewhere he doesn't know. He's going to family, but he's going to family that are not of his own nation's origin, and he's going to the family that are not on his father's side. It's not the patriarchal side, it's the matriarchal side. So interesting there. Then it tells us King David longed to go to Absalom, for he was consoled concerning Amnon's death. We didn't really dig deep into this, but I did a little research in my commentary here, and one of the things they suggest is that word is not meaning that David necessarily wanted to go to Absalom because he wanted to be with him. He more wanted to go and kill him, do justice. And so now we pick up, it makes a little bit more sense as we read the story of today to see it that way, okay? So here we are in 14:1. Joab, son of Zeruiah, knew that the king's heart longed for Absalom. Can we just pause for a second here? Do we remember who Joab is? Give me a word. Military commander. Joab is the military commander, okay? So when you're a military commander, you're not just leading the army, you're also involved in the politics of the day. So Joab sent someone to Tekoa and had a wise woman brought from there. He said to her, "Pretend you are in mourning, dress in mourning clothes." Hear that as mourning. "And don't use any cosmetic lotions. Act like a woman who has spent many days grieving for the dead. Then go to the king and speak these words to him. And Joab put the words in her mouth. When the woman from Tekoa went to the king, she fell with her face to the ground to pay him honor, and she said, "Help me, your majesty." The king asked her, "What is it? What is troubling you?" She said, "I am a widow. My husband is dead. I, your servant, have 2 sons. They got into a fight with each other in the field, and no one was there to separate them. One struck the other and killed him. Now the whole clan has risen up against your servant. They say, 'Hand over the one who struck his brother down, so that we may put him to death for the life of his brother whom he killed. Then we will get rid of the heir as well.' They would put out the only burning coal I have left, leaving my husband neither name nor descendant on the face of the earth." The king said to the woman, "Go home, and I will issue an order in your behalf." But the woman from Tekoa said to him, "Let my lord the king pardon me and my family, and let the king and his throne be without guilt." The king replied, "If anyone says anything to you, bring them to me, and they will not bother you again." She said, "Then let the king invoke the Lord his God to prevent the avenger of blood from adding to the destruction, so that my son will not be destroyed." "As surely as the Lord lives," he said, "not one hair of your son's head will fall to the ground." Then the woman said, "Let your servant speak a word to my lord the king." As if she's not already speaking a word to the Lord the king. Okay, sorry, a little side comment. "Speak," he replied. The woman said, "Why then have you devised a thing like this against the people of God? When the king says this, does he not convict himself? For the king has not brought back his banished son. Like water spilled on the ground, which cannot be recovered, so we must die. But that is not what God desires. Rather, he devises ways so that a banished person does not remain banished from him. And now I have come to say this to my lord the king, because the people have made me afraid. Your servant thought, I will speak to the king. Perhaps he will grant his servant's request. Perhaps the king will agree to deliver his servant from the hand of the man who is trying to cut off both me and my son from God's inheritance. And now your servant says, may the word of my lord the king secure my inheritance. For my lord the king is like an angel of God in discerning good and evil. May the Lord your God be with you." Then the king said to the woman, "Don't keep me from the answer to what I'm going to ask you." Let my lord the king speak," the woman said. The king asked, "Isn't the hand of Joab with you in all of this?" The woman answered, "As surely as you live, my lord the king, no one can turn to the right or to the left from anything my lord the king says. Yes, it was your servant Joab who instructed me to do this, and who put all these words into the mouth of your servant. Your servant Joab did this to change the present situation. My Lord has wisdom like that of an angel of God. He knows everything that happens in the land." The king said to Joab, "Very well, I will do it. Go bring back the young man Absalom." Okay, we'll stop there for a minute. There's a lot, but pretty straightforward. What is it that you guys are seeing? Tiffany. Okay, she doesn't have a name. The wise woman from Tekoa. All right, what else are you noticing? Okay, Joab doesn't just bring this to himself. He brings another person in. Yeah. I have a comment about that we'll have a little conversation about. Just remind me of triangulation. Okay, we'll get to triangulation. Deanne? Okay, all right. Okay. Yeah, I don't think that's interpreting. Yeah, there's this, what you're saying is like there's almost a monologue here. There's at least some level of script that's been given to her, and it's been pretty clearly stated. He put his words in her mouth. Is that how it goes? Yeah. Joab put the words in her mouth. Okay, of course, not literally, but yeah, he gives her script. All right, what else? Really? Keith? Okay, she reveals that she really does have insight into this. Now, the question would be, how does she get the insight? Is it from her own wisdom? Is it from Joab? What's the deal? But let's go into the story a little bit, though. What do you notice about the story that she tells, even? Warren? Say that again. She's pleading to be protected because what? She has 2 sons. Allison, were you going to say something? Oh, Glenna. She pretends to be a widow, so no husband, 2 sons. One of them kills the other one. Now there's an avenging that has to be done in line with the Torah. Eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. So she's pleading for this son to be absolved, pardoned, so that she doesn't lose her welfare, in essence. You remember, patriarchal culture, matriarch doesn't have any rights, really. Matriarch needs other patriarchs, even if they're her sons, to take care of her. That's right. Her husband's name would be cut off. Did you see some of the words she uses for that? It's not future that she says. My remnant. The remnant are the ones who remain. Okay, Lorraine?
This is the second time that's happened with me.
Okay, say more. Yes. That's right. So Lorraine's just bringing up the fact that this is the second time someone's come in with, we couldn't necessarily call them parables, but like a story, and then it ends up being flipped. Oh, I'm talking about you. Yeah, this is the second time. It seems to work. It seems to work with David. Let's do that. Yeah. Hey, please go tell David whatever. Okay, let me come up with a story real quick, and then I'll flip it on him. Yeah. All right, what else are you noticing here? Yeah, I've been asking this question. I don't have an answer, so I'm just saying that from the beginning. But why is Joab so invested? Why is he so invested in Absalom? I have ideas, okay? But why is he so invested in getting Absalom back into the land? Yeah. Anything else that you know? Yeah, Sandra?
David figured out it was Joab.
Yeah, as opposed to Nathan, in the Nathan story, with the Bathsheba stuff, he doesn't get it, and it requires Nathan to say, "You are the man." But with this wise woman, he by the end of it, he reads through it and he asks her, "Yeah, did you notice how flattering she is?" I mean, it's a little overboard, if you ask me. That's interpretation, but it's just, come on. Yeah, so look, it's pretty straightforward, even though it's a lot of detail. Joab is the key player here, isn't he? Actually, the key player is Absalom. He's sort of the underlying main focal point of these last 2 chapters. And Absalom is in waiting. He's been there 3 years. 3 years. And for whatever reason, Joab feels like Absalom needs to come back. Now, I have my thoughts. I actually think that everyone expects that Absalom will be the next king. I think that he has a winning personality. We're going to read about him in a minute. Just foreshadowing, or just spoiler alert. We're told his hair is so thick and luscious. When he cuts it, it has a certain weight to it. We'll read that in a minute. He's a charismatic figure that a lot of people love. And so there's a longing to get him back. Joab conceives of a plan to bring a woman from way outside of the town to come and give this story. And here's what I think is an interesting piece. It's the same thing that happens in the Nathan story, and that is, you remember David has, what's his main role? What is he's called what? King. Yeah, that almost was too obvious. Everybody's like, I don't want to say it because he's king. What does king do? King sits as leader and judge. But you remember in the situation with Bathsheba, he has sacrificed his ability to be a judge because he's the one that's committed the crime. And so Nathan brings in this secondary story so that he can sit in his seat of justice and make a decision from the king brain, not from the personal brain trying to cover his tail. See? And it works. He makes judgment, and it's a right judgment. And Nathan says, thank you. Now that you've made that judgment, it's according to you. You know? The similar thing is happening here. He's not sitting in the position of father who's angry at his son who murdered his other son. He's sitting in the position of justice, the seat of justice. I'm king. And I'm making a decision based out of wisdom that's not personal. It's business. It's not personal. You know, that kind of thing. So he makes the decision now, and the woman says, well, really, I'm talking about you. You've got the same issue going on, you know. And this gets David to the position to say, okay, I don't want to take the future from my wife, his mother, and the people want him here, and so I'm going to relent, and we can let him come back. So he tells Joab, go ahead and do it. Notice, David doesn't go himself, and it's Joab who's really the one passing the message on. We're setting up a situation where David has said that's fine, but he really still does not care to be around Absalom. So let's dig into this final piece here. I think I turned the page too fast. I did. Okay, here we go. Joab fell with his face to the ground to pay him honor, and he blessed the king. And Joab said, today your servant knows that he has found favor in your eyes, my lord the king, because the king has granted his servant's request. No more playing now. You know, everybody knows this Joab asking the question. Then Joab went to Geshur and brought Absalom back to Jerusalem, but the king said, he must go to his own house. He must not see my face. So Absalom went to his own house and did not see the face of the king. In all Israel, there was not a man so highly praised for his handsome appearance as Absalom. From the top of his head to the sole of his foot, there was no blemish in him. Whenever he cut the hair of his head, he used to cut his hair once a year because it became too heavy for him. He would weigh it, and its weight was 200 shekels by the royal standard. 3 sons and a daughter were born to Absalom. His daughter's name was Tamar. Oh, that's interesting. And she became a beautiful woman. Absalom lived 2 years in Jerusalem without seeing the king's face. Then Absalom sent for Joab in order to send him. Actually, let me just pause there. Let's do a little reading, observing, and interpreting now. What are you seeing in this short little section we just read? He thanks him. He really, really wanted this. Yeah, he thanks him. Okay, what else do you see? John? Yeah. Daughter's name is Tamar. You could realistically wonder if that's named after his sister. Yeah. What else? Say that again. Absalom's just living a normal life. Yeah, he's got kids. He's married. Yeah. But he's not normal. Because what Diane, what were you going to say? Okay, he had to go to his own house. David did not want to see his face. Okay, let's look at the abnormal abnormalities of Absalom here. He's clearly not had to go to a dermatologist. No blemishes from head to toe. What else? He's GQ. Fabio is his name nowadays. That's Absalom is Hebrew for Fabio. Yeah. Yeah, his hair. Look at his hair. He cuts it once a year. Terry Frick, what would you look like if you only cut your hair once a year? The Navy in him would not allow that. Once a year, and when he does, it's so heavy that it weighs 200 shekels by the royal standard. Does anybody have a note? Mine does, but do you have a note in your Bible that says 5 pounds of hair? I think that's my problem when I step on the scale. It's my hair. So fascinating, isn't it? What else do we see about him? Look at that first sentence describing him in verse 25. All of Israel, there's not a man so highly praised for his handsome appearance as Absalom. Wow. This guy is a superstar in Israel. David, what were you going to say?
Well, I was just noticing that the 3 sons are not named.
That's right.
Daughter is.
That's right.
In the culture strikes me as an oddity.
3 sons not named, daughter is. Let's just start with that, okay? I think that right there is a very strong clue that Tamar, the daughter, is named after his sister Tamar. The author seems to be purposefully bringing this out as if to connect the two. Okay. But what we're finding is that when Joab comes back, he's faced with a couple of things. First of all, he's faced with the reality that he's actually not welcomed back into the royal household, but he's welcomed back into the geographical area of Jerusalem. You can come back. I'm not going to kill you. That's in essence what's being said here. But he's faced with the other problem, and that is he's well loved. Joab stands behind him, doesn't he? And Joab has a pretty important position. And it sounds like the rest of Israel would love for him to represent them. So Absalom is now an outsider within his own family, and yet there's a lot of building, maybe pressure is not the right word, but adulation of him. And now we have a situation where he's hearing about who he is from outside David's household, but on inside David's household, he's not welcomed. Well, yeah, very similar to David. I would say the only difference is David stood in a place of righteousness then. Absalom stands in a place of selfishness, really. Yeah. He doesn't come to his dad and say, hey, can we figure out this issue with Amnon? I'm bothered by it. He just stays quiet and he plots his own destruction there. Think about this, though. When was the last time you heard God's name mentioned? It's been a while. Think about that for a minute. Think about all of 1 Samuel. Think about the build-up in 2 Samuel. God is at every turn. He's directing and he's leading. David has a question. Let's go to God. Hadn't happened in a while. Since Nathan. God speaks to him. David begs. He fasts and prays. Nothing since. Lord, how do I handle this situation with my son? Nope, I'm just making decisions. Now we pick up in verse 28. Absalom lived 2 years in Jerusalem without seeing the king's face. 3 years after Amnon's death, 2 years in Jerusalem after and not seeing his dad's face. Then Absalom sent for Joab in order to send him to the king, but Joab refused to come to him. So he sent a second time, but he refused to come. Then he said to his servants, look, Joab's field is next to mine, and he has barley there. Go and set it on fire. So Absalom's servants set the field on fire. Then Joab did go to Absalom's house, and he said to him, "Why have your servants set my field on fire?" I'm sure he said it a little differently than I just read it, but okay. Absalom said to Joab, "Look, I sent word to you and said, 'Come here so I can send you to the king to ask, why have I come to Geshur? Why have I come from Geshur? It would be better for me if I were still there. Now then, I want to see the king's face. And if I'm guilty of anything, let him put me to death.'" So Joab went to the king and told him this. Then the king summoned Absalom, and he came in and bowed down before his face with his face to the ground before the king, and the king kissed Absalom. All right, what do you notice here? Say it again, Karen. Not a nice neighbor. That's definitely interpretation, but tell me a little bit why. Why is it he sets the field on fire? Yeah. Sandra? That's definitely interpretation. Okay. Tell me why you think Absalom is acting like a spoiled child. Okay. So he asks, let's just be more specific, he asks Joab to come. And Joab doesn't come. We want to take note of that. Let's take note of that. He asks him 2 times, doesn't come. 3rd time, decides, let's just take care of business. And he lights the field on fire. Yes. What else? Lynette? Okay, that's a great question. We need to put a pin in that, because why did Joab not go? Because he really wanted Absalom there. It feels a little confusing, doesn't it? Okay, we'll get into that in a moment.
The focus of the narrative seems to shift. Absalom becomes the center of the storytelling.
Yeah. Do you remember when I brought up at the beginning of the Amnon tale, Amnon raping Tamar? Do you remember what I said there? It came from the commentaries. That's right. It's an introduction to Absalom. This story, as tragic as it is not really, the focal point's not Tamar and her rape. The focal point is how we get to the point where Absalom is where he is right now. Actually, where he's going to be in the next chapter. That's actually where it's going to be. Yeah. Harry?
I guess I observed that Absalom seemed to need Joab to open the door
Okay.
to his father. Why don't you just go see your father?
Oh, all right. We didn't ever get to triangulation, and this is where it's going to be. Okay? Let's use this to start. Has anybody ever heard of the idea of triangulation? You have? Because of a personnel team meeting. Actually, yeah. No, we have talked about it in personnel team. Okay, here's what triangulation is. Triangulation is a very unhelpful way of communicating, and yet it's a very normal way we try to communicate within our world. It always leads to confusion and oftentimes a mess. Okay, so here's how triangulation would work. Lauren, will you come up here with me? And Tom, will you come up here with me? Okay. So I have a problem with Lauren, okay? Get in line, he says, okay. And so, but we live in a world where we don't really like to say negative things to people. So I want to tell Lauren, I wish he would grow his hair out like Absalom, And so instead of just saying to Lauren, hey, this is a problem, I'm going to say, man, I wish that Lauren would grow his hair out. I wonder if he'd listen to you if you said that. Okay. Now you go to him and you say, the guys were talking and we were thinking that maybe you need to grow your hair back out. And he says, well, I can't, because if I did, half of it wouldn't be there. That is... So Lauren says that to Tom, and Tom comes back to me and says that. But what's at risk when we're doing this? It's the telephone game. Right, miscommunication. He may have a little bit more of an edge to the way he felt like Lauren was talking to me. And Tom may have communicated to Lauren, more disgust than was maybe in my voice, you know? And now we're not actually communicating. We're just talking through a third party. We do this all, okay, you guys can go. So, we do this all the time within our family systems and within our friend groups. And it's really unhealthy. And it causes all sorts of damage. And so, we have two roles to play within these systems where we need to be involved. First of all, if we have a problem with someone, we need to go to them and talk to them about it. Because here's the reality. They will always find out it was you. And now they will be offended that you didn't want to talk to them about it. It makes it all worse. Now, you might need to learn how to talk to them about it, but that's a whole nother conversation. That's cutting out the triangulation so you can have clear lines of communication. Tom's role is one that needs to say, that's not my job, I'm going to encourage you to talk to them. That also kills triangulation. And it allows for there to be clarity. What we love, though, is that this is where gossip becomes so detrimental. Gossip is the Tom of that conversation. I really kind of like being involved in this. I get an inside track on what's actually happening. I like to feed it the juicy stuff that makes me feel like I'm in the know and there's a little bit of drama around it. But in the end, it always hurts. And unfortunately, this has been problems in churches for centuries. It's been problems in families. This stuff does not help at all. And so, the key thing to do is just to go to that person. And a lot would have been settled if those things would have happened here. If Absalom would have just gone to David and said, I think you need to deal with Amnon. And they would have talked it back and forth and dealt with it. If Joab would go to David and say, listen, David, I think this needs to happen, doesn't go through this third-party person. And now if David says to Absalom, hey, you're welcome to come back, but when you do that, hey, we've got some issues we need to work through. Instead, they've been playing the triangulation game. Absalom, he's there away. He's feeling frustrated. You're talking 2 years. This is 5 years total that he hadn't seen his father. He has not been a part of his family. Clearly, though, I think it's important to note, Absalom is not owning responsibility, is he? He's not apologized. In fact, he's frustrated because he's not welcomed back into the family. He's not noting that he shouldn't be welcomed back in the family. So he calls Joab and says, hey, come here. And Joab says he's not interested in going. Well, why is that? Because Joab was so interested in having Absalom here. Well, I don't know exactly, but I wonder if a lot of this is Joab's trying to keep the lines clear. I got you back here. Don't get me in trouble by me going, and now it's going to look like I'm in league with you. So just to know, what's going to happen in the next chapter is that Absalom will create a conspiracy, and then he will end up revolting against David. It's so bad that David actually has to flee Jerusalem. Now, I think they kind of know this stuff is already in the works. And I think that Joab wants to make sure that he is not seen as someone who's plotting with Absalom. So he doesn't go. He doesn't go, even though Absalom clearly invites him. And finally, the only way Absalom knows how to get him there is to create a big scene. So he burns down his field, and that's what gets him there. So Joab says, fine, I'm here. I'm already here. I'm just going to step in. And he goes and asks David, and David says, sure, that's fine. Absalom comes in the room. He bows down before him, and he gives him a kiss. And it seems, at this point in the story, it seems like we've had some sort of resolution. Oh, we can all calm down now and go back to our normal way of life. But look at your subtitle on the next chapter. Absalom's conspiracy. You know, there was something I was just about to add in here, but I think that all of this, David's reaction, really does help me think that David wasn't longing. You know, we looked back at the end of chapter 13. I don't believe that David was longing to see Absalom, like, I just want to hold my boy kind of longing. I think it was, David was really ready to go take him out. And he escaped. And so that's what's kept David. Now things settle over a 3-year period. And I think you can tell that because David doesn't even want to see his face. He's not longing for him as a father pines for his lost son. He's longing for him because he wants to take care of business because he's so angry. Of course, it's just more fuel to the fire. Of course, we're in a position where David's house is falling apart. And does it feel like it's happening pretty rapidly? You know, even though we're given timetables, 5 years, in the grand scheme of things, it feels like it's unraveling very, very quickly. And it's really devastating because prior to chapter 13, from chapter 13 on, we will no longer have the established kingdom like David had in such a positive and helpful place. Any final thoughts before we close up? Tiffany? Yeah, you know, let me just make a comment about that. You're just sort of commenting on he was such a godly man, and then these 2 sons are just so terrible, you know. And actually, it's going to end up being more than just his 2 sons. Yeah, it is very sad. And we live in a world where we deal with this. What's the responsibility of the parent? And what's the responsibility of the child? And I think we're in one of these states where we've struggled with the work of overparenting, so much so that even our child's failures feel like our failures. And, you know, sometimes that has to be named. Yeah, if you abused your children and they end up having a rough life, you have some responsibility to bear, right? But we also have to come to a place where our children make their own decisions. And that can't be our failure or our success even. Our children are on their own, they're independent. And we have to recognize that at some point too. And so we have to have that balance here when we're talking about David and his sons as well. They really, even though David may have been a broken parent, they have their own choices that they make. And it's not all on David's head, you know. Okay, let me say a prayer, and then we're going to head off to some fried chicken. Jesus, thank you for your presence with us, for your word as it guides us. We're just asking tonight, Lord, that you would, as we go away for a month, or as we just don't have Pastor's Bible study for a month, would it just be, Lord, that we stay connected to your word, connected to each other, and that in all these times of celebrating your birth, we would come into contact with you, to be blessed by you, to experience you, to glorify your name. And so the God who is able to take a situation even like this and redeem it and do something with it, we know that you can take the situations of our lives and do the same. We trust you, Lord, and we are grateful for you. And we pray all of this in your holy name. Amen. Before we close, I totally forgot to give an update. Many of you were praying for Pam Woods as well. Pam was in a Mohs procedure yesterday for some basal cell carcinoma on her back that she had been dealing with for a while now. Mohs procedure, they went 5 rounds yesterday and weren't able to get it all. So she went home and rested, went back today, and after the 2nd round, they got it all. So she called me delighted, a little delirious, but delighted, saying, I'm cancer-free. So we're just praising God for that because that's been a long road for her. Okay, well, let's go have dinner. Oh. Yes, Cheryl's got something. Oh, Cheryl, thank you. Yeah. Guys, I love pastor's Bible study. I love teaching Bible study. It's probably my favorite thing to do as a pastor, so I'm always grateful. Thank you guys for making it a great semester, too. Yeah.